Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast from Backlot Banter where we review every single Palme d'Or winner from the Cannes Film Festival. Today, our random spin wheel gave us a movie with the delectable title, a title that applies to all of us here and our lovely audience. That would be Friendly Persuasion from 1956, directed by a William Wyler, none other than one of the Hollywood.
William Wyler.
The great Wyler.
A golden age of cinema goat. Have we talked about him on the show before? I feel like he had a Best Picture win.
This specific show?
I think the previous incarnation.
The previous incarnation, we talked about him those times.
Well,
Yes.
We're gonna add a trace now.
No,
tonight.
no, not on this one. Sorry. I was thinking,
whoa.
I got him confused with David Lean
Mhm,
and A Brief Encounter. That is not true.
No,
That is
it's not true.
folks.
These are very different
It's a little-
filmmakers, and
Yes.
that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Not really bringing David Lean into it all. I'll remind you who's starring in this film because there's some people you might have heard of. We got Gary Cooper, of course, Dorothy McGuire, Anthony Perkins. Maybe you remember him from Psycho. He's in this one. And then a little Phyllis.
I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm only familiar.
1998 film starring
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn.
I'm only familiar with that one.
We just made up a guy.
So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about A Friendly Persuasion, what you think of it. But I'm going to remind you all of what we talked about last time because it was a Robert Bolt written movie about the South American missions. It was in fact called The Mission. And The Mission. And we kind of went back and forth on it, I would say. But oh crap, I can't find it. Yeah.
Can I interject? Can I pull my segment up here? Because we have
yeah,
had
what
a
do you-
long-standing tie to litigate.
Indeed.
Yes,
We'll
of course.
Answer a couple questions, and I have a comment here that's going to do just that.
Okay, hit us
so-
with that,
so let
and
me
then I'll
jump right
remind
into that.
about where the mission
Yeah.
landed. Because yes,
Because
you're
actually,
right.
this will tell us.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true.
The mission did
It's
not have
true.
a
The
time.
mission didn't have a time. I forgot how numbers work. I'm like, we don't know where the mission goes. It's one lower. That's not true.
Uh-huh.
This comes to us from at Abby Keg. Shout out Abby on the
Shouts out.
eel. And Abby writes the following about the eel. I think my thoughts on this are summed up in that it is. Hold on, I gotta put my glasses on. It's a fucking 14 inches away from my eyeballs. This monitor here.
Brother, like an old man Buhner over here.
I think my thoughts on this are summed up in that it is too contemplative to be plot driven the way it is at the end, but not plot driven enough at the same time. I feel like the titular eel is supposed to be a bigger deal, but it just really doesn't seem all that affecting on our protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Also-
did we do that? Did we do that during the eel episode?
Eel? No. I mean,
Eel,
there's a lot
what's your
probably-
deal?
Oh, God, we're so fucking stupid, aren't
Oh.
Man.
we? Wow.
Also, I just
Missed
never really bought
opportunity.
that he was really grappling with murdering his wife, and I thought during his confrontation with Kiko, he said he didn't regret it. Maybe it's just the central thesis of the movie that I disagree with, that it feels so easy to forgive someone who, yes, killed through the crime of passion, but clearly had jealous tendencies. I think his wife is clearly portrayed as apathetic and conniving, and we see none of her good characteristics, which makes it easier for the audience to take his side. Just a good guy who is in love with his evil wife. That's an interesting point.
Interesting.
Good vibes
Who
with
can
side
blame him?
characters.
It reminds
But
me of
Kiko-
another thing that we're going to discuss shortly.
What?
There we go.
His evil wife?
We're almost through.
Come on. Lock in, guys. Lock in.
Good vibes with side characters, but Kiko should have been more of a dual protagonist than the love interest with some backstory that we get. I found her story so much more interesting and complex than his, and yet she's just perfect, beautiful woman who can, quote, fix the protagonist.
Yeah.
Also, I have not seen Pele the Conqueror, but I have seen Rosetta and Belle of Narayama, and I would put the eel below Belle of Narayama, which I was also not huge on, but I think I liked more. Also, don't hate it either, but very much in the 6 out of 10 territory for me.
Wow.
So we're putting the eel
Abby.
below
Mhm.
Belle of
Yes.
Narayama.
Yeah,
Shout out
I think
Abby.
Shout out Abby. Thank you for the insightful comment. Sorry for the
Yes.
tangents in between. Our attention spans have been ruined by the TikToks.
Yeah, they
I
have.
really appreciate the point about his wife that he murdered.
I think so-
that's very
I think-
interesting.
Yes, that is
I didn't
Very
even
good,
consider that.
insightful
Yeah, we
comment.
didn't linger on her very much during that.
Well, the film doesn't either.
Movie doesn't linger on
Yeah.
her, but you know,
Which maybe they should have in hindsight.
maybe
It's
they
a
should have.
good
And
idea.
I think it's a solid and cogent point that Abby raised.
Well,
So
Top 10
just
cogent
to
points.
put it all on a nice bow on it all, the eel
Yeah.
spot number 29 on our list, and then the one from last week. So eel was prior, and then it's the mission afterwards. 4.6 was the score that the mission got, spot number 65 on the
Yeah, we
list.
averaged
So
that well
today
enough.
is the 72nd movie that we're adding to this list, and our discussion of it begins henceforth. The Tanner will thou recall for me.
Oh God.
thine plot of the.
I will recall thine plot for ye, all of ye. That is. So this film.
They don't
friendly
say ye. They're. I think
They
it's only
should.
thighs.
They
I was
should.
catching a lot of yees. I gotta say. I think I was catching a lot of yees.
They're hitting the
Hey, ye?
ye's.
Yeah.
Oh.
The ye, they thy, they
Hoss?
thine.
And like the thyle, like
Let
thy
me
will.
fucking set the table here. God damn. Okay. So first of all, did we even say the name of the movie? Friendly Persuasion.
Yeah,
Yes, we
the
did.
name of the
Okay.
movie.
There was a bit in the opening, and how we're all
Oh
friends. or
yeah,
whatever.
sure. And
Or whatever.
what a tight bit that was. Tight and clear and concise, I would say.
To pull back the curtain, this is an episode with like a heart, with like a time pressure, and we're not even through the fucking plot summary yet.
Anyway, Friendly Persuasion, fucking 1862, Indiana. Where are we? We're in a Quaker colony. We got people, and they're Quakers, and we learned about their culture a little bit. We got a family. The what is the family name here? A second, hang on. It's the what the fuck? The Birdwell family. Jess Birdwell, portrayed by Gary Cooper, his wife Eliza, and their 3 children, Josh, Maddie, and little Jess. The movie is largely concerned with like their sort of trials and tribulations going out into the world, the community surrounding their Quaker community, having their faith tested by the outside world that is rapidly changing around them. Chief amongst those changes in the outside world being the Civil War raging, and the central question that is posed to our characters is, of course, a core tenet of the Quaker belief is what's the word I'm looking for?
Pacifism.
Pacifism, thank you.
Abstinence.
Pacifism. And some abstinence, I would say. But
Too much.
the war is raging. They're being drafted. They're being called upon by their community and by military leaders to like, hey, take up arms against the dirty rebels, will you? And they're like, I don't know if we really should. Like God says we shouldn't, but I feel morally in my soul that I maybe should. So that's kind of like the core conflict of the movie. That being said, and to roll into my thoughts just quickly here a second, a lot of the movie is just like antics, I would describe them as. Kind of silly situations and antics.
Yeah. There's maybe a couple of different angles at which to discuss this film. Thank you, Tanner, for such a gracious, magnanimous plot description. I want to pass it to Tucker here to get us started on your persuasion on Friendly Persuasion. What do you think of
How
the film?
friendly shall I be?
Are you
Thy
going to
opinions.
abide by the Quaker values, or are you going to lash out in a fit of violence?
No, this movie doesn't offend me. I think it's fun. I think it's light. I think it's frothy. I think that's the word of the day. This is Don Cheadle word of the day.
That's good.
Which is interesting and it's fun and makes this movie very watchable. I think I have a difficult time connecting to it because it does feel like a little bit too classic Hollywood airy. They're just kind of like messing around and having fun, and they like overreact to everything. And I'm like, it's a little bit melodramatic. But it's a fun enough watch. I think I find this movie a little bit challenging in that it has an awkward balance where I think the subject material is there enough to have a very emotionally meaningful and thematically resonant film that explores tenets of faith and morality and in connection to family and community and the wider world. And it's there in the text. It's present, but the majority of the movie is just like, frankly, it's the Quakers trying to have fun and being like, should we actually have fun or not? But then, you get these boiling seeds of the Civil War and the tension. So you're like, okay, I see where this is going. And it comes to a decent enough head.
It gets there.
It's a good movie. It's fun. I think that it
becomes a head later, and then you can have the
froth
whole movie
becomes
as a
right.
pint.
That's true.
Sure. Yeah. But, I had a good time with it. I think it's fun enough. I just wish I wasn't saying fun and frothy, because the subject material, I think, belies something that could be like, oh, really? This made me think. It kind of does. I don't know.
Yeah, kind of not
Mhm.
really though.
Okay, Tanner, you're talking too much. You're up next.
Oh, fine,
You spoke.
fine.
Teacher's calling on you.
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with Tucker. I think this is a pretty charming movie. That's the word I used to describe it in the old WhatsApp group as I was working through it. Because I think initially, Tucker was the first one to watch it and really tipped us off to the vocabulary that we already sort of joked about already.
The
in this
Quaker
episode.
vocabulary.
The Quaker vocabulary, yes. And once I got past the first couple minutes of that, which is pretty silly, I would say, hitting the ear so hard and heavy for the first time. I found myself kind of won over by its charms, by its classic Hollywood feel, by Gary Cooper and the camaraderie of the family, and yes, even some of the fun and the antics that are to be had in the first act and a half, 2 acts of this movie. I do wish, to Tucker's point, that we do lean harder into the Quaker faith, learning about their culture a little bit more. But I suppose limiting it down to something more akin to a family drama is also kind of compelling to me. I just couldn't help but think of other movies that we don't get a lot of movies that sort of try to tackle this area of faith that much. The
I don't think
Amish,
I've
the
ever seen a
Quakers.
Quaker movie before.
There
in
is
my life.
technically the Testament of Anne Lee from last year was about the Shakers, which is kind of like a side arm off of the
Spin-off,
Quakers.
yeah.
But I was also thinking of a movie I watched about a month and a half ago called Witness, starring Harrison Ford, which is about the Amish. But sort of similar religious cultures. Whereas those films kind of do get into the culture and the psychology of people who believe in these things. This film does that more in a face value sense, I suppose, and like we have already mentioned, kind of only really gets there in the third act in ways that I feel, and it has all this character work and scenes and fun, entertaining fluff stuff in the first 2 acts that if you try to apply the sort of thematic reading, religious reading to them, I think can weaken the film a little bit. But I'd like to do that in this discussion here today. But I'll pass it off to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to weaken the film today.
Well, I'd like to go and analyze how the themes of the film apply to all the other stuff going on, all the sort of the Gary Cooper stuff that's happening. I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. But first, Abram, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's not very good. I just don't like. Yes, it's fun, but a lot of things are fun, and it's not very fun to sit and watch what feel like largely useless episodes in the life of this Quaker family. Now, obviously, to some degree, they reveal something about each other, and I think that sort of the way that the family unit changes over time is interesting. But that's really not what the thrust of the movie is. We have it established very early that there is tension between the Quaker lifestyle and the broader culture that they live in, and there's pressure being applied to that by the impending Confederate attack as they're gaining territory in this area. But that's really just, the film is just, I think, not usefully concerned with that. And I don't really think that what is drawn out of our characters in the non-war related episodes does a whole lot for when the war circles back around to being at the fore of the film. I don't really feel like a lot of the time we've spent with these characters makes the sacrifices that they make feel any weightier, feel any more consequential. Not that there really is any sacrifice to make here, because ultimately this movie has a wonderful ending. Everybody gets what they want, and nobody that important to the storyline comes home dead. We assigned the token death to a C tier friend of the dad. But yeah, I just think that structurally this is pretty inert, and it's fun in individual sequences, but I I don't know. I think that a lot of it feels like we're spinning our wheels waiting for the meat of the movie to emerge.
I would say my thoughts are pretty much with Tanner and Tucker. It's it's lighter fare. It's the notes that both of you hit about the feeling of the golden age of cinema. Like I think this is dripping in this like aura of what movies used to be, and what movies used to be is kind of TV, like a lot of episodes in this with we learn some new characters. Oh, we're gonna go off on a little quest. We gotta go sell some things. I couldn't really figure out what he was selling, and now we were at this farm where there's a bunch of
I have no
where
idea.
there's only women, and now isn't
He's
now
got
it's not
clients,
a
though.
fine howdy do, right? And so you got like Abram says, you have this. It's
Oh,
kinda
it's
just
time
like,
for the Organ episode.
it's time for the and so we just have
Deal
these
with that now.
yeah, these little bits that go on and on at the beginning, and then it's like, okay, and now here is our season finale where we are going to now think about how this religion that we've been living in, but only aesthetically, not deeply, unfortunately. There's no real interrogation on the face of the characters on what it really means to them to be a part of this. In fact, I would say that Gary Cooper and his progeny don't like being Quakers. They are not interested in the tenets that are what we're told are important, like the no having fun, no listening to music, no dancing, silent meetings and prayer, and this things that I fully understand, like why a Quaker would want to believe in this, and that the benefits to this religious teaching. But the movie doesn't really care. It kind of uses that as a butt of a joke a couple of times. And so you have then the female character, Eliza, who is the one who is putting up who's like holding all the rest of the family up to the good standard of the Quakers. And is not, I think, treated very well in the plot of the film or the reactions of her family members because of, because it's the golden age of Hollywood, and we have opinions about women that are going to be passé in a couple decades. So that said, it's like I kind of really love Anthony Perkins in this movie. I think he's just doing he's kind of doing, Norman Bates again, but it is also like really funny and endearing when he's getting all awkward and squirmy, and I think he's like a strange bolt of modernness in this film that otherwise is very dated feeling. That his performance just shines right through as a more human level display of emotion and reaction than Gary Cooper or Dorothy McGuire, who are performing. They're actors and they're inhibiting the role of these characters in this film. Whereas, Perkins he's like a boy. He's a little uncomfortable when all these women are getting crazy around him, and that's
Yes.
what I was laughing my
Couldn't be
ass
me.
off at that scene. That was a really funny one. But by the time we get to the end of the movie, I'm like, yeah, okay, so this is not that deep, and it ends super nicely. And sure, if I was bored in 1956 and I needed something to do and TV was not cutting it, like totally, I would have gone and saw this. So, Tucker, where do you think we should begin this discussion, having heard all of what we thought about it initially?
My biggest concern and compliment with this movie is the way that it deals with the respect and exploration of faith, and the ways that impacts someone's morality, the way that they believe they should act, the way that they will hide things from other characters, the way that they portray themselves to others, and then maybe have a different internal understanding of what themselves are. And we all touched on it. The most interesting element of this movie, sort of textually, is how a pacifist culture interacts with the impending crash of an invasion. And are you willing to take up arms to defend your family, your home, your community, or is the belief that nonviolence is a virtue, does that take precedence over defending your home? Are you willing to stand by because you know it's the right thing to do morally while things are taken from you, while people are injured, whatever? And as this is building up in the movie, and as we get that scene in the meeting of the sort of tension with the general guy who comes in, I'm like, okay, like this is making me think. Like these people believe this so deeply. It's what is true to their community. If they take up arms, how will that make other people in their community feel about them? How does that impact themselves and their sense of faith and this kind of thing. And I do think that I find this interesting enough to where it is pulling me along. My question to the class
Mhm.
is by the end of the film, which side does the movie take? Is it that the Quaker faith and their pacifism is a moral good, and it is what makes them a sort of superior people, and it's what keeps them tight together, and it is a value that they should definitely hold? Or is it that this is America and we should
Don't catch you
defend
slipping,
our
Rob.
home? No, not that. This is American culture, and taking up arms to defend your fellow people and standing for your right to be who you are and defending your family members, that's the moral thing to do. Because I think the movie kind of plays it both ways. And I was really wondering, like, which propaganda will the movie take? And the answer is kind of both. I think maybe it more ends on the side of, or over the course of the film lands on the side of, standing up for your home and your community and taking up arms is the American virtue to have. This is a very American piece about the Civil War and defending your home. But again, but also the movie is pretty good at showing that this is a virtue to have and that this is a value that they should continue to hold. And the fact that none of them die because the characters get a little bit violent, but not so violent. Like there's just this like weird back and forth that is, I think, compelling and interesting. But I don't know what the movie has to say about these things other than they do conflict, and that's a real challenge if it conflicts in your head.
Very interesting.
So I will say that I think that the movie is perhaps not so morally prescriptivist as to be like one is the truth and one is not. I think ultimately maybe what the film is getting at is that these are imperfect people, and yes, some of them adhere more closely to the tenets of their faith than others, and some of them profess to believe and profess to be devout believers more than others. But like when a true test of faith arises, as the Civil War sort of serves as in this narrative, then like everybody is going to flex and bend and not fully break, but like skirt into the margins a little bit more of what they believe. And then at the end of the movie, we assert that like we assert that we can all go back to meeting and ask for forgiveness, etc., etc. Even though we didn't really do anything super wrong, but like we broke the internal rules that we have understood, as we have been doing for the past 2 hours of movie. Basically, this movie is basically incident after incident of their faith being tested in various levels of severity. And a lot of the times, this is what I wanted to talk about. Like Jess, Gary Cooper's character, does like he really like starts to give in and start to be and really start to like lean in directions that would that the community of Quakers would not be in favor of. The whole Oregon thing is a really big example of that. But I think ultimately in the third act, what we see interestingly is Jess making this decision to not kill that rebel soldier and let him go, which in a moment in a scene that I quite liked. And then of course Eliza like tries to do the right thing, tries to this survival of the most faithful, of just giving everything over, being like overly welcoming and just giving everything they have over to these rebel soldiers who have arrived. But eventually she also has a line that she in a moment of like fervor and just pure reaction, she crosses that line too. She's ashamed of that. She doesn't want anybody else to find out, but like her family forgives her, Jess forgives her, and eventually I think we're led to believe that yes, God will forgive her too.
I think that it's these different, like the different inputs and the different outputs are what is important to understand. Because where I come down on it, and what I'm going to use my supporting details to describe, is that I think the film actually has a very positive outlook on this nonviolent pacifist persuasion, right? That the people who engage in nonviolence are actually okay. They manage to get through the situations just fine. They might even be able to get through them better than the people who fight back. And I'm thinking about young Josh who gets up in arms and he takes the rifle and he goes and he fights and he is not killed, but he is gravely injured, and he himself does kill in that sequence. And that, we, of course, don't spend a whole lot of time dwelling on the immense psychological consequences of being taught that violence of any type is really bad, and then like going and murdering and on your first day of being violent and then going back to not murdering. It's got to really screw up your brain a little bit. But he is, the one that's kind of pushed and tested with the actual violence. Gary Cooper, Jess gets to gets to be a magnanimous fellow and gets to have this very like noble sequence. Kind of, he's always, like you say, Tanner, pushing the rules, encouraging others to push the rules throughout the whole film. And yet when it comes to time, it's like he is doing it because of the moral, center of his character, that he actually has, used a form of violence to create less violence, which is, not exactly what the violence begets violence kind of message that I was assuming once we started on this like pacifist angle. Well, violence begets violence. So that's kind of where I thought the film was going to go. And it doesn't really go in that direction. And so I think the outcomes being generally a little better for our pacifists leads me to believe the movie is much more in the favor of that. I mean, I think so. It's like our characters are all pretty much in a positive light. The religion is shown in a positive light. It's also a comedy, so we're not like going to be getting super dour with maybe consequences of actions in it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that I don't know. I just think that it's ineffectively splitting that difference between being a comedy and trying to be something more significant. And like,
and there is, yes, keep going. I agree with you. I want to add on to what you're going to say, but maybe you can read my mind and steal it.
Oh, see, I mean, because we can have comedic situations. I think that's fine, and I agree with you, Timo, from earlier that like the encounter between Josh and the daughters is very funny. I think there's a lot of very funny sequences in the movie. I think you can have those funny scenarios and then still have, I think, more palpable interpersonal drama than this film is interested in carrying through. Because I think one of the most persuasive scenes in the movie that really grabbed my attention is when the Union general arrives at their meeting to chastise them, the Quaker men, for not taking up arms. And then the really interesting tension in that scene to me is the tension between the Quaker characters. And there's this sense that there are these very strongly held beliefs about within the community that seems to fracture the community, where you would imagine it would fracture the community, about what the personal responsibility and sort of the religious path forward is. But what's really interesting is there's an incredibly similar scene to this that happens as a lot of our guys are riding off to the battle, where Jesse is again confronted about his pacifism. That scene plays out with basically the same entrenched beliefs and similar exchanges as that one that happened about an hour and a half earlier in the film.
Same side character as well is that guy. I mean, Jess calls out the hypocrisy of that guy.
Yeah, and
somebody does.
Well, no, it's the friend who's coming around to see
the non-Quaker
Sam,
friend.
I think his name was.
Yeah.
Sam Jordan.
And what Sam was doing was saying, "Hey,
number 2, racing."
Yes, saying, "Hey, there's so few people who are going to, sort of embody these values. You ought to leave Mr. Jesse here alone." But because this is such a similar exchange as the one that happened so much earlier in the film, I just feel like this drama is quite inert. It feels like there's really not much wrestling or tit for tat or trying to figure out how these different sects of the community are going to respond to this challenge, in part because of the way that the film is structured. The war doesn't recur in any meaningful way until about 35 minutes before the movie is going to conclude.
Which is a flaw with the movie.
Yeah.
I want to add this, that there is a in the context of the Civil War, there is an incredibly important character that this movie just like slaps around and passes by, and that would be the the character Enoch, played by Joel
Yeah.
Flulin, who is like their kind of black help around the farm. I mean, it's kind of unclear what the relationship is, but they're friendly, and presumably he's getting paid. And he explains at one point that he's a runaway slave. Holy crap! Talk about something to really chew on here. We got pacifists who harbor a runaway slave, and the slavers are coming to get him back, and yet all we get out of this dynamic, which I think is incredibly could be incredibly fruitful. You could really get a lot out of this. Like one scene, and he's like, he says what you would expect. Like, this would be bad news if they come and get me, so I'd rather go down fighting. And there is no, of course, because it's 1956, there's no like understanding or attempt to like figure out by the white characters in this movie like what he could possibly mean by that. And I just think that is a huge missed opportunity. And I also think the idea that the war has to come to them, right? That there is this moral, pretty much unanimity about the moral correctness of fighting on the side of the Union and fighting against the Confederacy. And yet nobody thinks to like go somewhere else. If you study real Civil War history, it's like the Battle of Vicksburg, an incredibly consequential late war battle, had soldiers from like every state. Like every single one went down to the bottom of the Mississippi and fought. Okay. And so people could imagine a film in which people leave the community to go fight because they think it's morally right. And then they come back having been changed both by war, but also by being away. And yet the war is not there. I think that this is an idea that the film is like, it's right there. It just doesn't want to break through this wall to investigate like what war really does to nonviolent people and people who hold, themselves in high moral regard. They all think they're very moral.
And that's the conflict this movie has between its frothiness and its inherently complicated subject matter.
Yes.
It's because ultimately what this movie chooses to spend time on are very entertaining, well-structured, well entertaining sequences of a long sequence at the fair and a long sequence on the road as they're encountering the farm of women and that kind of stuff. And like, yeah, these are fun. But then you think back to especially the farm of women scene, which brings up a little bit of this tension between these very chaste men and women who are a little bit more magnanimous than they're probably used to, given how tamped down the women in their community are. And you're like, okay, where's this going to go? Where's it going to go? The answer is absolutely fucking nowhere. Those characters never reoccur. They're never mentioned again. Like, this is just like a fun sequence that I'm like, okay, is Josh going to fall in love with one of these characters? Is that going to make, like,
because we're doing that with
tension
Maddie.
between him and his family. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
Maddie doesn't really serve a whole lot of purpose other than to be this romance plot. Like she is, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's woefully underdeveloped character, I would say.
Well.
Yeah. Well, because she's the only one that, other than her love interest, she doesn't really get any. She doesn't really go anywhere. Like she goes to the fair.
She has.
The fair,
she has.
they'll go.
Her conflict
They all go. Yeah.
boils down to like, oh, my parents maybe are not okay with us dating, and then we'll not wade into age gap discourse here, but one could make some comments about that.
No, I looked at the ages of the actors. I think it's like 7 years. I felt that, but I don't know. I don't know canonically in the movie.
It's
Who knows?
1862.
Well,
they did it differently back then. Whatever.
I'm going to assume it is an adult man
different.
and a teenage girl.
I'm going to assume that as well.
Is what the rules
I'm going
are,
to
guys.
assume that as well.
I'm going to throw something out here. I'm going to throw something out that may lodge as a bit of a defense of this film.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been talking about like the core conflict obviously is this war thing, and it's an issue that the war thing doesn't come up again until the very end. What I would say, and this is something I was toying around with in my head, it's not a fully formed thought, that perhaps the entire movie is more about the value and the value of testing the bounds of your own faith and not just falling in line with the tenets of your community. And obviously a lot of that goes back to what Jess is doing. A lot of that, again, I will not deny, comes across in these fairly lighthearted scenes. But again, I just keep wondering, like, why is this character written this way? Like, we get dropped in and, we understand that he's, like, prideful. He wants to win the race. It's kind of like the first thing that we learn about him with his non-Quaker neighbor or whatever. Then we constantly see him like saying, no, we should go to the fair, and like I'll talk to your mother, make sure that we can all go to the fair, and like he engages with like the music tent and the little carnival
Or like,
games
yes,
and
Maddie,
stuff
you
like
can
that.
hang out with your adult boyfriend, that kind of stuff.
So like this character to me is so weird because he's just served up to us as this guy who views these things as a little bit more flexible than his wife does, especially because his wife is like a preacher at their they don't call
They
it
both
they don't call
are.
it ser-
House.
I think
Are
they're
they-
both like.
are they?
The head.
No, it's just her.
It's just her. I
He
feel
does
because
husbandry.
when the organ guy shows up, he's like, "Oh, I'd like to talk to your preacher," and it's like, "Oh yeah, you should go talk to the preacher." He's like, "Oh, listen, buddy, you're not going to be ready. We got a freaking lady preacher at this church, pal. Sorry,
Meeting house.
Excuse
Mhm.
me." Mhm. But yeah, I just felt like that is maybe an avenue to explore this. Is that it's about a guy who, he's the patriarch, he's the head of the household essentially. but
He's
he
the
is
star,
more
he's Gary
flexible.
Cooper.
Of course, he is more flexible and lenient in his beliefs than his wife is, and than his kind of children are, and than the broader community is, which I think lends itself to like the calling out of the hypocrisy of the neighbor, where he's like, "Oh, where in the first act he's like, you boys shouldn't fight because God hates violence or
Mhm.
whatever," and at the end he's like, "Oh, your boys, they're such cowards, they're not going to fight." He's like, "What the hell, man? You were saying the opposite thing like a few weeks ago."
Well, I think that
but yeah.
all of what you're saying really actually adds to the strength of his final character note, in which he is,
Yes.
in which he spares the man's life, and it's like, this is a reasonable situation. I mean, not everybody would do that, but it clearly didn't it didn't hurt Jess at all to let the man go,
Mhm.
and I think the performance of that soldier really kind of is the linchpin on the scene, because of the surprise mixed with the gratefulness. It's like dread into surprise into gratefulness is very, I guess,
Mhm.
narrative
I-
face.
Whoever that guy
It's
is,
like-
I was like, this guy's doing some great face
It's
acting.
great
in
face
this
acting, because
sequence.
like I get what he's
Yeah.
thinking, and it doesn't feel like he's like clowning at me to tell me what's going on.
Well, and I think it stands out because a lot of the sequences in this movie, and this is something I
they
noticed.
are
I'm
doing
curious how you
the
guys feel
clowning
about this
at
as
me
well.
to tell me what's going
They're
on.
doing the clowning, they're doing the melodramatic, the overacting, primarily from the female characters. I think that one of the issues this movie has is that it presents a scenario in which the comedic beat is that a woman overreacts to something. Like the punchline is often like either the mother or the daughter like running away huffily, or like doing this and shaking their head
Mhm.
scornfully at something that we as modern viewers, even at the time comparatively modern viewers
Mhm.
who are not Quakers, and also the more fun-loving side of the Quaker family we see in this film, we are sort of taught that is funny, that they are the comedic beat, right? It's the punchline remember the sequence when Maddie is like complimenting a guard, and he's like listening, and she finds out he's listening, and she's like storms away and goes up to her room and like leans out the window, and I'm sitting there like it's just it's so over the top, so many of the reactions in this movie, and I think that's part of why, again, I describe this as frothy, but I think that it's difficult for me, especially with Maddie, who I think we mentioned earlier is a lesser developed character, but to like relate to her plights or her struggles, because I'm like, you're not acting like a person. you're a character here, and so when we get a sequence like with that soldier, that really stands out as something that feels a little bit more believably interpersonal. And I think a lot of the
not frothy, as you keep saying, which I think is still a great sort of word to describe.
It's the Don Cheadle word of the day, Tanner.
Very good, very good.
Yeah,
what else
because
do we got
well,
here?
here's my feeling
So,
on this point, because I think it's interesting, Tanner, because the way that I might cast him is he's a more like progressive Quaker,
Sure.
and
The Quaker's already pretty woke by 1860 standards.
Actually, I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Other than the
Yeah.
no music thing, yeah.
Well, yeah.
And so I think what's interesting
Footloose cross friendly persuasion. Is this called friendly persuasion?
I think what's interesting about that scene with the Confederate soldier that he spares is that it essentially creates a a way forward that finds a middle ground between the pacifism, because he's not a pacifist by the end of the movie.
No, he wrestles that gun out of his
spared a
arms.
guy's life.
Yeah.
Which I think is meaningfully different in the context of the moral positions that we think that these characters are taking in the beginning of the movie. When he's talking about how no man is my enemy. Well, this guy is my enemy now, and so I think that he represents this kind of middle way through between the pacifism and the violence. And I think what's interesting about that, to this point about do some of the characters, the female characters, feel more like that characters rather than people. I think everybody largely serves a pretty static function. To me, sure, some of the
I have a theory about the functions too when you're done.
Sure. So some of the characters emote in a more obvious way, but I wouldn't say that anybody has a particular character arc that reveals a whole hell of a lot about them. I think we simply they exist in a particular mode, and and it's about how these characters with different modes collide with each other. Pacifist guy, somewhat pacifist guy, violent guy, and so I guess
insane child.
Insane child. Goose.
Every family's got a violent, non-violent, insane child, Goose.
Yeah, and
Anthony
so
Perkins.
I guess that's just for me to say, like, in one hand, like to I think in part it's like a criticism of, I think, the way that a lot of these characters don't really have arcs so much as that they have plot events that they barrel towards and into and react in kind to effectively. The only character who gets a little bit more of an arc is Eliza. And I think that Eliza is uniquely underserved because we see over the course of this film how she comes to relent and accept these things that make her family happy, but go against this very stringent, moral, pious code she lives by. She relents on that somewhat. At the end of the film, when she has to bash the Confederate soldier over the head with the broom so he doesn't try to eat the goose, she is completely distraught by that happening. Because she is had to now go against type in a way that not many other characters in the film have to. And yet there is no time in the film for her to reckon with any kind of consequence, internal or external, of that, other than the fact that her family comes to find out that she hit a guy with a broom, and Gary Cooper is kind of memeing on her for doing that, which again is a good scene. But to me, that leaves her feeling uniquely uniquely underserved, because we see Josh put his philosophy into practice. And I really actually like, to your point earlier, Timo, about the performance of Anthony Perkins, what he brings to the character as he's waiting nervously, staring down the iron sights, waiting for the Confederate soldiers, or the way that he's found next to the body of another person on the battlefield. He brings a lot to that, and I really like that. But we see him take his philosophy into action. We see his father do the same. But then we see Eliza do something that she doesn't want to have to do. And then the movie's over before we understand what to make of that.
And
well, I think So here's what I'll say on that front, because I think it's a sort of a difference of, I go back to my point of, like, Eliza is, she is a preacher at the meeting house. She is the one that is most strict on these things, and really only, like, sort of caves in on, like, the Oregon front after she does this whole show of, like, moving out to the barn in protest and everything. She only does that after her and Jess spend this night together in the barn, sort of strengthening this idea, for me at least, that, like, their relationship is more important than, like, the rules of their community, the rules of their faith or whatever. And I think that's kind of what I would positively read the end of this film as, is that, yes, you say that, Jess ends up memeing on her a little bit, but I think there's also a sort of loving understanding on his part that, like, this is probably really tough for her, and she wanted to keep this a secret from me and the rest of the family or whatever, because she wants to keep up appearances of being the most pious of us all, the best of us in this sense, because I clearly am not. That has become abundantly clear over the course of this movie. But I think what he sort of, once he learns that, I think that he is heartened a little bit by that knowledge that, like, she should know that, like, we're all human in that regard. I'm not going to, like, judge her. I'm not going to judge her or move out to the barn or anything like that because she did this. I'm going to say, hey, that's okay. There are fungibilities to the things that we believe, and if you really want to, we can ask forgiveness or whatever. We've all gone through this extremely trying time, and we've come out on the other side of it together, all alive and better for it, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I totally hear what you're saying, and I understand that read particularly from the perspective of Jesse. But I think that, again, what I'm thinking about is more specifically what Eliza wants, because to the point we've been making a couple times about the underdevelopment of the female characters in the story in particular. The one thing we do know about Eliza is that her religion is more important to her than anything else. And I just think that she's asked to compromise it in a way that she should then be able to reckon with when the film ends too quickly. Even the part with the organ, you bang your wife in the hay pile, she lets you keep the organ in the attic and play.
Hang on, we didn't see that happen. We didn't see that happen. We don't know what happened.
They were literally rolling in the hay. They were
rolling in.
No.
Okay.
Production details. They're rolling in the hay.
It's all PG. We panned it to the moon. Nothing happened.
But you're doing a foreplay in the hay, and your pocket watch falls out of the pocket.
Yeah, the pocket watch is out of the pocket. The neighbor's laughing his ass
on the
off.
back of the shirt.
Yeah, it's some good Hays code.
Hey code. That leads
implication is
me to the point that Abram had triggered in my mind earlier, is that there is a lot of the characters in this movie really serve as like the 4 quadrants aspect of it. Like, this movie is so squarely a 4 quadrants movie. Like, we need to be bringing in our teenagers, right? So we have our male and our female teenager. They both get romance arcs. They both are pretty prominent in the thing. Okay, man, these young audiences are identifying with that. Okay, and now that's the younger people. And then the older people, we have Gary Cooper and Dorothy McGuire.
Gary Cooper.
Who are gonna do, the razzle-dazzle star
little
power.
Kids with little Jess and him meeting up the trouble and the goose.
And the goose, which at the beginning I was like, is this a puppet? If so, great puppet.
No, that's a real ass bird there.
Sometimes they do comp him in. I think sometimes they.
But I thought it was well done. I thought it was like, this looks great.
Pretty good.
I can kind of tell, but I don't really care.
I really like the moment, one of the first moments in the movie, when the goose is like stalking the kid.
Yeah.
And like pops its head out of the grass and then goes down. I'm like,
I'm like, that's a puppet, bro. It's a puppet. That's how. But like,
Timo, it's the magic of movies. Let me say, how'd they get the goose to do that?
How did the goose do that?
Don't you remember Shang-Chi in the Planet of the Apes bit?
No.
Tanner, come on, back me up here.
So
with Trevor Slattery, and he's like, how'd they get the monkeys to ride the horses?
Yeah, pretty good joke.
All in all, this movie serves like the meta purpose of the movie is to make a boatload of money, and so that is why you have characters who appeal quite heavily to the imagined audiences of 1956.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, and I think that for me, where I got my most enjoyment out of the movie is that it's a full family unit. I was actually very surprised. I mean, we say that the female characters are underwritten, and I certainly criticize them for being maybe a little bit overacty, but I think I was actually pleasantly surprised by how balanced the core cast of the film is. Each of the 5 characters gets something to do. They each have a character or set of characters sort of bounce off with and explore their personality. Each of them has sort of their dynamic with one another. I really like these moments between siblings, especially at the beginning of the movie as we're getting introduced to the characters. And we we see that moment when little Jess comes in the brother's room and he like hides behind the thing. They're like doing a little like kind of like gunfight little thing. Yeah, like I think that it's really easy for a full family unit movie with 5 characters to have 1 or 2 characters who feel like they're just background fodder. But I think that the screenplay does a really good job at having them each have their own moments of that testing of their faith in the context of who they are as a character. And watching little Jess like be a rambunctious kid and having to like hold that back a lot and he has that sort of come out in spades, and then and having a young woman who's really like testing her, like being wooed by a handsome guy, like she wants to sort of fall into this, but she has to hold back. Like each of these characters has these moments that test them, and it'd be really easy to like we'll just focus on one or two. And so I think one of this movie's strengths is maybe yes, it is willing to compromise on exploring deeply a couple of the characters, but it gives, to your point, Timo, someone of every age group, of every gender, to have a character that they can relate with, can explore sort of how their personality would be impacted if they were in this situation.
Yeah.
Can I shout something else out?
Do it.
What are you doing? What are you gonna shout out?
You know what I love about watching an older movie in particular?
What do you love?
I love a well-blocked shot.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
some
Oh, yeah,
great
dude.
blocking in this damn movie. Like when Jesse is riding away into battle, and we have this incredible shot of Eliza in the foreground, and then we have Maddie on the porch, and then we have young Jesse on a stump, and everybody is aligned really beautifully in the frame. It is a very, very good-looking movie.
It's like William Wyler was one of the greatest directors of the era and really knew how to put one together. And you know, he just
kind of
chose to do this one.
Kind of a baseline when you got that sort of talent behind the camera.
Can I pose a question to the reading discussion room here?
Certainly.
This, correct me if I'm wrong, Tanner, the first year of the Palme d'Or Award or the Cannes Film Festival is 1946, correct?
Yeah, technically speaking, yes.
Yes. And so then this movie, which would have been awarded on the 10th year anniversary of the Cannes Film Festival, is like about like war and nonviolence and what you do in reaction to nonviolence. Why do you think they picked this one for the 10th anniversary of the Cannes Film Festival? I'm maybe leading the question a little bit, but do you think that there is like anything to be grasped at in the like, because this does seem like an outlier to me in the films that we've looked at in this
Definitely
awards canon.
It feels so much more Best Picture.
Yes,
and it was a Best Picture nominee.
Definitely. Well, it's also is this the no, it's not the first American film they awarded, of course, but you know some of the other ones. Earlier. The other ones, were like The Lost Weekend, for example, or
a lot more serious.
a lot more serious. Crossfire, if you guys remember that one, that's like the noir detective film. And then technically Dumbo, also, I don't know why I said technically. Dumbo is an American film, but they had not awarded. Well,
because animation is not American,
nor is it a film either.
I lied. 1955 film that we still have to talk about / have already talked about. They awarded Marty. Yes. So the American films that they had awarded up to that point, 50% of them were Best Picture winners.
So Timo, just for maybe our less, I don't know, I can't even begin to speculate who the hell is watching a friendly Persuasion video.
This is not a 4 quadrants review. Let's be clear.
No.
But essentially, the point you're making is.
Actually, they kind of all are.
That's so fascinating.
There
are very few that are not.
The point you're making is about how a lot of those films 10 years prior, a lot of the winners were World War II related. You're saying
yes.
In a sort of 10 years removed from World War II type environment, this sort of very agreeable pacifist film has a sort of like cultural wave that it's riding.
Yeah, and that's
is that what you were not so subtly
asking a question to prove a point about? Yeah. You know, like any good Q&A, you got to speak for 10 minutes before you ask a question.
Well, I could actually go through if it's worth talking about here for a sec, because we have technically seen the last 5 Best Picture winners. We can like look where it was trending over the last few years. The Palme d'Or winners. So we have 52 was 2 Cents Worth of Hope, and then Wages of Fear, then Gate of Hell in 54, Marty, and then the year before this one was The Silent World.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's a huge amount of variety in there. Good Lord.
Yeah.
There's not a trend, and I think
no,
I think that's actually really what we're learning. Other than films about hardship and films about specifically European perspective on World War II, there aren't that many trends in the history of the Palme d'Or winners. And And so I think that I was actually kind of surprised when you pulled that up, Timo, or when you were leading to that question, because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't think the 10th anniversary has almost anything to do with it, and I think that it's just like, and to that point, I'm like, I'm even just still surprised that this movie won, period.
I know.
Tanner, do the palm details right now. Like, what other
Why
films were
did
in
they pick
competition
this
against
movie
this?
to win? Is
Oh,
maybe
sure.
my
And we have
So,
no answer. It's just kind of interesting to think about.
yeah, it's a fun.
I got more stuff I want to talk about, but we can do palm details now, of
okay.
course.
Yeah.
So in 1956, the jury presidents, I got that wrong. My bad. In 1957, excuse me, this was the sole winner of the Palme d'Or. The jury president was our favorite guy, one guy that I know you guys are huge fans of, Andre Malraux. Of course, we all know him. Other notable members of the jury were Jean Cocteau, George Huysman, who was the jury president for the first several years of the Cannes Film Festival, Maurice Lemon, and Michael Powell of Powell and Pressburger fame.
Ooh, okay. Well, so 1 out of
And the other
7,
movies.
huh?
Of the 30 other films in competition, let's see here. I didn't recognize a lot of these, but I wrote down a few. The Bachelor Party, what did I say? I forget who that is.
Man.
Oh, Delbert Mann. That's why I put that
Oh,
down.
M-A-N-N.
Marty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny Face by Stanley Donen.
Sure.
Canal by Andre Waja. A Man Escaped by Robert Bresson.
Great movie.
Great film.
Easily the best, and also the most Palme d'Or winning.
Yeah. And then
list.
Federico Fellini's Knights of Cambria was also up
That
there.
also could feel quite Palme d'Or winnery.
Certainly.
So there was options.
There was options. But I think what we're maybe circling around to is that this is just, especially for an audience in 1956, 1957, whatever, this is a very winning film for a lot of people. It is really, really charming. I think even it would work on even the most highfalutin and high-minded European Cannes Film Festival jury
It won no Oscars.
It was
It was nominated for
a couple.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Won none.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
So yeah, was like a big player over in the States, of course, even in the awards realm. It has ideas, and it is about a unique sort of culture in America that would give it that prestige. But it was also quite entertaining. I was again maybe that's where we can restart a little bit of discussion here. You guys, I know Tucker did, but like Abram, Timo, did you guys find it like funny? Were you laughing at the jokes?
I was
Did you find it
laughing at this
entertaining?
movie. Yeah.
Okay.
I was mostly laughing at I thought the teeny bopper angle to this film really chuffed me. I just thought it was like so funny how they were.
You just mixed two totally different eras of like terminology there.
It's also,
this guy
also worth pointing out, two Timo's point about like this being a 4-quadrant thing, that like this is probably in the early days of there being like a teen audience to be catered towards.
Yeah,
that concept wasn't really a thing like
during the war,
World War II.
No, there wasn't, and so that like just kind of the juvenile humor and the like the sexual tension, right? I thought was probably the funniest part about it because of my presupposed notion of how like sex equals bad in Quaker. I'm assuming I don't actually know if this is part of the doctrine or not, but
I think it's a pretty safe guess, buddy.
Pretty safe guess. So then all the moments in this movie where it kind of pushes in that direction, and the characters gonna have to wink and nod at each other, it was quite entertaining to me.
Well, yeah, sorry, Abram, I want to throw it over to you. Were you laughing along? Were you chuffed by any teeny bopper antics like Timo was, or by any other antics in this film?
Yeah, I guess.
You guess?
Yes. I think that it is fun enough. I think to me, it kind of there's sort of peaks and valleys to the If we're looking at it purely as a product of entertainment, I think there's certainly peaks and valleys to it. I think arriving at the ladies' farm, excellent scene, whole banger scene, front to end. Love because there's a lot of great movement in that scene.
There is.
Gotta get mom. One daughter to the next daughter to the third daughter. Gotta get mom. Popping out of the window, popping out of the barn. All of that, really, really good.
The mother being
And
like, "You're overdoing it," and then like the next line she says like hardcore flirting with Jasper well is awesome.
Yeah, a little space on the couch immediately filled by a sister. One sister moves, another one moves in. Josh tries to get up, pulled back down. Just really well executed physical comedy. I thought that was great. I also really enjoyed the scene of Caleb, Josh's friend, getting into the wrestling arena at the
Oh, sure.
The fair,
at the fair,
carnival, whatever.
and I thought that was particularly good because I think that was a great example of how we can take the comedic, like, light antics of the movie and ground it in something a little bit more serious, because I really like how that scene escalates. We go from seeing how this scam is basically being run with this big guy in the arena to Caleb winning, realizing that he stepped over a line he doesn't want to cross, and then that escalating into a fight outside of the ring. I think that's really good. I thought that was quite entertaining, and had a little bit more weight to it. But on the whole, I'm not really going to be thinking about any sequence out of Friendly Persuasion in a week.
And that is totally fair. But in case you wanted to, I wanted to shout out a couple of my favorite jokes and gags and stuff like that.
We can text these to you at the beginning of each week. So you never
if you'd like, just to refresh the old noggin.
Right.
When Jess gets done doing his like shooting, his sharpshooting competition thing at the fair, I do love the carnival barker or whatever who's like, here's your prize. You got to he pulls out a board of garters or whatever. And he's like, a beautiful garter for your wife or sweetheart. And he looks him up and down from over the counter. Great bit of physical acting from this guy, and he says, just as soon as you get out of mourning. Because he's wearing all black.
That's a good moment. Great.
He's wearing all
great
black.
punchline.
It's good stuff.
And then I like him wearing them on his sleeves.
Yeah, and then he's like, you ever heard of, because Eliza's like, what are you wearing? Sleeve holders or whatever. And she's like, you ever heard of Pierre Perret from Paris or something?
And
from Paris?
Can I ask just like a logistics question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Where is a woman supposed to wear those? Like upper thigh? Is that the idea?
You ever been to a wedding and they do the thing where they remove the garter?
Yeah, I remember this for one specific reason. Do any of you remember the opening sequence from Monsters vs. Aliens, in which the woman who grows very large, she grows and the thing that's on her leg goes, pew, and it hits a guy in the head?
Yeah.
I watched that movie so many times and I was like, why did she have a rubber band around her?
A garter. It's a weird thing that happens at some weddings. Maybe I don't think it's going to be. It would be a Midwestern
It's also like
thing,
a
but I've seen
boudoir item too.
Yeah, it's like a bit of like lingerie or whatever. And then here's a weird thing that I've experienced going to a number of weddings from when I was a young child. By the way, this is in the presence of young kids. The groom will he'll have the bride sit down in the middle of the dance floor. I can't believe I explained that. And then he'll put his head under her dress and remove the garter with his teeth.
Yes.
And then like, sort of emerge triumphant from. Yeah, it's a fucking crazy fucking weird thing.
Imagine if that happened at a wedding
think it's
and then
Midwestern.
his head exploded under there. He never came out.
Whoa! Imagine if he went in and never came out. He's in the back rooms.
Back end. I think one element of this movie that I was surprised by is that because I was very frustrated, frankly, by the theeing and thouing at the beginning, which we didn't really talk too much about, but it was something that really, I think, distanced me a little bit from the characters and made it just that extra bit harder for me to sort of relate to them, make them feel sort of personable. And I largely got over that over the course of the film. But I think this movie it strikes an interesting balance where it has a good amount of respect for the Quakers and their beliefs and the fact that they're holding true to these things. But it also really loves to use their beliefs as punchlines and showing other characters who are probably more relatable to the average audience goer, especially at the time, like kind of ribbing at the fact that the Quakers are weird. And there's even a moment of like, why are you saying thee and thou?
They hit
like,
that several times in the movie.
Yeah.
A couple
People
make
times.
fun of him all the time. Tucker, that'd be you back in 1862.
That
You'd
would
be like,
be you.
This fucking idiot.
That's Tucker in 2026.
That's true.
Yeah, and then just like throughout the film, like, you know, it toes this line between respecting those beliefs and also mostly using it as a punchline. It's,
Yeah,
it's just kind of interesting.
This is
But I found it charming. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I kind of eventually, I think one of you mentioned, like, especially Anthony Perkins' performance maybe feeling like a little bit more modern. I think that I was surprised by where the movie starts and me feeling like, oh man, I'm not going to care about or like any of these characters. I do think the movie has a like spice to it where I'm like, okay, no, like there is a little bit of energy under here. They understand what they're doing and like they are able to poke a little bit of fun at the things that are over dramatic, melodramatic, or maybe a little bit more like dry classical. This movie's not dry, and I think that's the thing that I finally reached around the whole thing. Like, what surprised me is that it wasn't dry. Like, I think
it's
going
frothy,
into it and be like, oh, exactly. And so maybe that's why I came out the other end. Like, even though I do have some criticism of it, being like, yeah, I had a fun time. Is I was really expecting this to be another one of, frankly, many of the Palme d'Or winners that we've reviewed, or even some of the Best Picture winners we did, of like, oh boy, old Hollywood where people are dry and they don't have like a sense of humor about themselves. It's like, that's not true about Friendly Persuasion. This movie kind of knows what it's going for and has like the breadth to be like, we're having a little fun with it, even if it is like, can feel a little stuffy. We know that.
Yeah. I wanted to shout out just like one more comedic sequence, and then I have something sort of serious to talk about. I suppose in regards to the film.
I have something serious on my mind today.
Yeah, exactly. The thing when they have
wacky dog.
The organ upstairs, and like the kids are playing it, the teens are playing it while the meeting with the Quaker elders is going on downstairs.
I did not like
you
this
didn't
scene.
Like this?
No, it's
I kind of like the like.
It's stupid.
Oh, friend, you got a squeaky door upstairs.
Oh, must have been the wind.
Like,
give me a break.
Yeah,
give me a break.
Well, I think they do
say
put a button on it that's like. Oh, your preaching was so good that it made me hear harps from on high or whatever.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, that was a good like pull around the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it.
He's like tearing up at the end.
I just don't buy it.
Oh, Jess Birdwell.
No, I mean that's like a comedic situation that is in any number of comedy films from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way through the 90s, 2000s.
It's Malcolm in the Middle if it were Quakers, basically.
Sure.
Family comedy,
but old.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime.
It's like WandaVision, but Quaker.
Okay, so I was sort of watching this film, and in our discussion of it, in Anthony Perkins' performance is what I'm getting at here. We've complimented him. We've said he feels a little bit more modern. Of course, he's part of a younger generation than Gary Cooper or Dorothy McGuire in this film. But I was interested watching his performance and sort of maybe extrapolating, pulling too much from it, from our understanding of Anthony Perkins's personal life, being a closeted gay / bisexual man, and like being in this movie that is obliquely about like in the grand scheme of things, even though I sort of joked and say they were pretty woke for the 1860s, like a religious conservative movement or whatever. And there's also stuff that can be read into a little bit, I think, if you wanted to. Not that, like, the creators of this film would have known this at all. But, like, the sequence of him being, like, uncomfortable being hit on by all these various young women or whatever. I don't know. It was just an interesting note to me. And then I was trying to maybe form some sort of take about the third act of this, which I think, again, if we can return to it, I think is quite strong, with him feeling this like urge, this pull to like, to not have people give up their life for him, to feel like he needs to do that thing, to be there with him, even if he's not actively shooting at the rebels or whatever, but to be on the front lines with those guys. I think it's such a great sort of character motivation for him. And of course he has to be saved by his father at the end, but still I found it quite compelling, even this back and forth that he has, where Eliza especially was like, Jess, talk to him, tell him that he can't do this, and then Jess in this fashion of pointing to like his sort of his motivation of wanting to be able to form their own paths of faith or whatever, their own personal paths of faith, is like, I'm his father. I'm not his conscience.
I thought that was an excellent line.
I cannot be that.
I thought that was one of the best lines of the whole movie. I'm his father, not his conscience. Yeah, that was a great one.
And a man's life doesn't amount to a hill of beans if he can't live up to his conscience.
Great.
I just
put that
found
over
this
my
all
door, you know?
kind of compelling. Yeah, exactly. I found this all pretty compelling, and again, I think Gary Cooper and Anthony Perkins are quite strong in this scene.
Mhm.
And again, I was trying to potentially marry these two, this extra textual, metatextual thing that we know about Anthony Perkins, and this character arc that he has in the film.
Yeah, I
Couldn't
mean,
fully do it, but I think it's interesting to maybe apply to it in post-talk.
I think it definitely adds more depth to his performance. But regarding his want to be involved in the Civil War, I did desire for a little more interrogation. This is a weighty deal, you know. It's kind of like maybe not in the. I think it's like it's kind of a given that he wants to fight for it. But I want to hear more why, you know. I basically want this movie to get in a little bit harder on like what the Civil War was fought about angle, which it just doesn't really talk about.
States' rights, of course, as we all know, Timo. States' rights.
I mean, they do shed out slavery by name, but to Timo's point from the beginning about the character Enoch, it really is not concerned with that at all.
No, which is the only thing that you really. Yeah, I ought to center that in your discussion about anything Civil War related, unless you're really going to get oblique about like food supplies or something crazy. But even that you could bring it back to. So,
I'm just trying to read through if I have literally anything else, even funny lines that I wrote down.
I'm feeling pretty dry, pretty empty on the old thoughts after this. I thought. Actually, pretty in depth we did here about this film.
Yeah, I think we did a good job.
We rarely don't do a good job.
Well, we try. I will say that.
What's everyone's worst episode?
There have been some bad ones that I know for sure.
Below.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I'd be curious to know if someone has one that jumps ahead. Leave a comment. It's not like we can't take a little ribbing.
I kind of like it.
Certainly.
Also, we've done what 200 episodes of this. If someone has a least favorite, go ahead. That's fine by me.
As a wise man once said, they can't all be winners.
True.
That's what I used to say all the time, and you would make fun of me.
I don't know about that.
I haven't said that in a long time.
I said a wise man.
A wise man.
So I already did the palm details. So should we just?
Yeah, let's plop it in. Abrams has been ahead. He's got it punched in there. I got my number punched in.
I'm always ready because I never want to be the one that doesn't have the spreadsheet open. So I always
that's always me. So it's fine. You're fine. So you're fine.
Because we usually say something about it too. So it's like good motivation.
Okay, we're all typed in.
3, 2, 1. Kind of like the organ, right? All right, the score is 5.8 out of 10. 5.8 out of 10. Big tie zone. We have a modern movie and an old movie to debate here.
Oh,
so the friendly persuasion, if it can't beat anything, it would stay at the bottom here at spot number 57 out of 72. But the first tie we shall debate here is versus the Ruben Östlund film that we love so much, Triangle of Sadness.
We have talked about it a number of times.
Man, I really don't like Triangle of Sadness, so I guess I'm gonna go friendly persuasion.
Triangle of Sadness actively annoys me, and I feel I bring it up every time it comes up on the show. I have watched that movie 4 times.
I've watched it way too many times.
Somehow I've watched that movie 4 times.
By the grace of God, Tanner.
By the grace of Ruben.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3. I'm above. I'm voting for Persuasion above. Tucker, you think Persuasion above Triangle? No, you disagree. Okay, well, you are overruled.
You're outvoted.
And so now we then versus The Knack and How to Get It. The Quakers would not like that movie, by the way.
These movies could not be more sexually opposed.
You were all being woke little sweethearts and talking about how this movie, the movie treats its female characters. How about The Knack and How to Get It and how it treats its female characters?
Tanner,
how are we feeling on these two?
Tanner, that's a very good point. I'm going to go The Knack and How to Get It.
Okay. As above? You're saying that one's the top one?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think it's a textually more interesting movie. So I will go The Knack and How to Get It.
Okay.
Do I want to do that? I actually don't know.
I'm going to say you said it, so you don't get to go back, because I'm going to say Friendly Persuasion should go above The Knack, because I felt...
All right, well, to avoid a tie, I suppose I'll stand in solidarity with Abram and Tucker.
Vija would be proud. The Solidarity Movement thanks you. We have a solution. We've figured it out. Friendly Persuasion, spot number. We went up one, so it's at 56 now out of 72. 5.8, right in the middle of the other two 5.8 scores. And that's gonna do it. We're done with Friendly Persuasion.
There she blows. Did it pleasure you in 100 ways, gentlemen?
Wasn't it 1,000 or was it 100?
1,000. I think it was 100. I
think
think
it was 100.
they were
It's not
tempering
like
expectations
crazy.
a little bit. Now, modern day, everybody be asking for 1,000 pleasures or whatever.
2-hour movie, please.
2 hour 15 minutes, by the way. This one does
inflation.
trick you by being over 2 hours.
It tricked you?
I was pleasured maybe
once
four
or
ways by
twice.
this movie.
6 or 7,
okay.
please.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Hold on.
Do we have any movies that got a 6, 7? No, we gotta engineer that.
We gotta
Okay.
engineer that. How about
That'd be really complicated to do.
how about we engineer this spin wheel?
We all give it a 6, 7. Easy.
Yeah, we all give it the easy.
Yeah, wait,
we
that's
just,
not hard to do.
we just rigged the
I-
vote. It's not.
Two people give it a 6.8. People give it a 6.9. There's a lot of ways you could do this.
No.
No, that wouldn't
Well,
work at all.
That wouldn't work at all.
Would it not?
You said
it's
8 and 9. Those are both more than 7.
6.8, 6.9.
I gotta-
Oh, sorry. No,
No,
6.
that's-
You know what I fucking mean. Whatever.
Yeah, but you said it wrong, so you're wrong. Done.
Oh, shut up, you.
Big- Begin-
Get us Pulp Fiction this time.
Begin to spin. Begin
Wheel,
to sing.
wheel,
Do it,
what's your
Tanner.
deal? Give us a movie that makes us squeal. Is it on digital or is it on a reel? Wheel, what's your deal?
The wheel's deal is stop. No, number 30. It's gonna be number 30. There it is.
We're really excited for
30.
16?
No, I
30.
don't know. It's like anytime you got a spinning Wheel of Fortune-esque thing, I always want it to stop sooner.
Mm-hmm. Well, gentlemen, number
What
30
if you clicked
is...
it? Wait, and it just stopped. Immediately.
Number 30 is going to give us the most, well, not the most recent Palme d'Or winner that we have not talked about. That one isn't in theaters in America yet. But the second most recent is going to be a film from 2018 starring Mayu Matsuoka, Sakura Ando, and Lily Frankie. This is a film from Japan, directed by Hirokazu Koreeda. It is
Oh.
Shoplifters.
Shoplifters.
I've not seen
I've
this.
been
I
waiting to watch
remember
this for a while.
when this
Yeah.
came out, and I wanted to see it, and then I didn't. So here we go.
Me too.
Yes, Koreeda, sort of a mainstay of the Palm Film, the Cannes Film Festival
Palm.
in the modern era. And yes, this is his claim to fame, the Palme d'Or winner that he lodged in 2018.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this one.
Number 155 on the Letterboxd Top 250, by the way.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okie dokie. Well, that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And I don't know. You guys got anything else? I'm pretty much done. I think we should wrap out of here.
Mhm. Let's do it.
Let's wrap it.
Cool. Well, stick around, Backlot Banter, for all your fun movie discussions, movie reviews, all that good stuff you know and love, because it's going to be a good summer. We're already off to a good start, I'd say, on the movie year.
True.
Times they are a-changing, maybe.
They're moving.
Yeah. And, well, okay. Shoplifters next time. Thanks for talking about Friendly Persuasion. I think we all persuaded in a friendly manner, so good marks on us. And that's all from me. Quakers would definitely agree with this statement, so stay cool, keep warm. Peace.